Today we join the church around the world in remembering and celebrating and committing ourselves to following the example of St. Clare of Assisi. St. Clare once said that we become what we love, and who we love has created us for what we are to become. She had this incredibly dynamic relationship with Jesus, and that relationship with Jesus was helped by her good friend, Francis of Assisi. They knew each other almost their whole lives and shared the journey together as friends. It kind of opens up a great reflection today for us to think about is, what do our friendships look like? What do our friendships in the church and our spiritual lives, how do they help us to grow in our relationship with Jesus? And I think there are a couple of things that we can take from Francis and Clare and their friendship that could help us in our own friendships. The first is that Francis and Clare were equals. It wasn't like a master and teacher type of thing. Think about it, Francis didn't even want to lead the religious order that he started. And Clare wasn't the type of person that was looking for people to tell her what to do. Francis was a deacon. Clare was the mother of this religious order, the Poor Clares that she had started. And so they stood together as equals, gazing out to discover the great mystery of God. The other thing is that they didn't describe their get-togethers as if they were gazing into each other's eyes and just discovering the beauty of Francis or the beauty of Clare. They discovered the beauty of Jesus. I think of it like, if our friendships just stop here with each other, it's like an NFL team that sets out beginning of the season that they want to win the Super Bowl, but they never leave training camp because they're so fixated on themselves. That's not what we're created for. It's not what we're meant to be. But rather, friendship, especially the friendships that we find in a parish setting or in a daily mass crowd, or in our Bible study group, or men's group, the women's group. In all these groups, we're supposed to be cultivating friendships that, like Francis and Clare, draw us out of ourselves together to discover the great mystery of God. And Francis and Clare didn't spend that much time together. Most of their communication was in letter writing. Even though they lived less than basically 2 miles from each other, they communicated through letters. And in these letters, they talked about God. They talked about how they discovered God. And when they did get together, it's not like they just looked into each other's eyes, but they turned their eyes away from each other, out of themselves, to look at God in creation. And they would talk about, I see God in the moon. I see God in these grains of wheat that are growing from the earth. And in that way, they kind of shared visions. They had different visions, but they brought them together. And in doing that, they expanded how they saw God, expanded their own process of exploration and discovery. And then another thing about Francis and Clare is they challenged each other. In their own discovery of Jesus, they both found that Jesus was poor. He was created in poverty and then shared that poverty with all of humanity. And so they kind of both committed themselves to discovering and living, joining Jesus in expression of that same poverty. But they did so in a way that they kind of challenged each other. They weren't competing. They weren't kind of rivals in any way, shape, or form. But they were both committed to the same thing and were able to help hold each other accountable to that as two companions on a journey together. As I think about our parish, I would love if this could grow as a place where we discover those types of friendships. In our Sunday get-togethers, when we think of the kind of ways that we cherish and really think about our parish experience, is that it's not about buildings. It's not about, having great homilies, great music. It's about the people that fill these pews and how we experience God in a tangible way together. How we develop friendships that really pull us out of ourselves to be of service to our neighbor, to be lovers with God, to enter into a kind of sacramental life in the church where we are a family, being family to each other, discovering how we're family with Jesus and God the Father. So maybe this week, and especially today, as we remember Claire and Francis, we can ask ourselves, how can we cultivate those friendships here? How can we cultivate that sense of being companions on a journey, looking out to enjoy, discover, and explore God together? And in that way, to follow in the great example of Claire and Francis, who are such great saints, and we celebrate today.